Today, we're going to be taking a look back at a King of the Hill episode that I consider to be one of my favorites. And that's the Season 7 episode, The Witches of East Arland. Now, this episode follows Bobby as he's forced to find a new hobby. He finds a stack of tarot cards at a flea market, and he starts to make some very unusual friends. To quote the wiki page, he falls into a group of magic-believing adult nerds. So without wasting any more time, let's jump into it. The episode starts with Bobby finding out that he wasn't cast as the cowboy in the school play, or cast as anything for that matter.
Sorry, Bobby. Kenny just has a certain rootin' tootin' quality about him. His brother had it too.
Yeehaw!
Little side note here, apparently the bulletin board here is filled with names of people that worked on the show, so that's a pretty cool Easter egg. Then later, when he's in his room super upset about the whole thing, Hank comes in to talk to him. While Bobby is complaining about how he's bad at everything, Hank has the idea of just finding Bobby a new hobby. A cool new hobby.
We just need to find you a new thing. A cool new thing, and I know just the place to find it.
They head to the flea market to start their search, and Hank hands Bobby some money and tells him to go see what he can come up with. Almost immediately, Bobby finds something. A stack of tarot cards.
Hey, what are those?
Oh, those are tarot cards. People use them to tell the future.
They're like baseball cards for hobbits. I'll take them.
When Hank and Bobby meet back up, Bobby tells him that he found some really cool cards, and without looking at the cards, Hank just assumes it's like regular playing cards.
Everybody respects a guy who's good at cards.
Really?
Well, sure. That's why they always get nicknames like Amarillo Slim or the Cincinnati Kid. I know. I'll call you Ace.
Fast forward a little bit, and Bobby's at the red carpet video when he bumps into one of the employees.
Oh, I see you're into tarot. How long have you divined the cards?
Couple of days. It's kind of my thing.
The only thing you can predict with these is a coincidence.
The guy goes on to completely nerd it up by telling Bobby he's a 14th level sorcerer and the real power of magic, that's magic with a CK, comes in manipulating the present, whatever that means. We learn the man's name is Ward when his boss screams at him to go clean up the bathroom. But before he leaves, he gives Bobby an address and tells him to arrive at the stroke of 4, and also bring potato chips.
Oh, wise and mighty Heredia, do please do smite.
Fast forward and we see Dale and Hank talking before Bobby rolls up on his bike. He asks Hank if he can be late to dinner because his friend Ward invited him to a gathering.
Is it okay if I'm a little late for dinner? My friend Ward invited me to a gathering.
Gee, Bobby, you put me in an awkward position. You really should be asking your father.
Dale's great, I swear. He explains that he met Ward at a video store and they bonded over cards. Hank being excited that Bobby found his thing, he lets Bobby go, and then the next scene we see Bobby knocking at some rundown house's door.
Welcome to the Coven of Artemis.
They go down to the basement, and Ward introduces Bobby to everybody in their quote-unquote coven.
Meet Vaughn, Noram Woodbender, Pan the Soothsayer, and of course, the Master of Disaster, Mitchell Jefferson.
Ward goes on to warn Bobby that because of the power of the coven, people fear them. When they walk down the street, mothers steer their babies away. Shopkeepers close their doors. I got this strange feeling that there's probably other reasons people avoid them.
Holy, this looks like something out of Harry Potter.
Dude, I just vouch for you.
If Harry Potter went to hell...
Now we're at Joseph's football game when Bobby says he has to blow off the last quarter to go meet up with the guys in the parking lot. He accidentally leaves his cards behind, and Hank, still being naive, goes to find Bobby to give them to him because he believes Bobby's gonna need them for his poker game. After walking through the parking lot, he sees some commotion going on through the trees and says to himself, "Oh, they must be tailgating over there."
What the hell are you people doing?
Hey, Dad!
Bobby?
Meet the guys, or as we like to call ourselves, the Coven of Artemis.
Bah!
Hank drags Bobby back to his truck while a group of kids walk by and just laugh at Bobby. Bobby tries to explain to Hank what the Circle of Power is all about, and Hank isn't hearing any of it. He tells Bobby that he knows he's at the age where he thinks all of this stuff is interesting, but it really isn't. He then tells Bobby he's doing this for his own good, and they don't need to tell Peggy about this. In the next scene, we see Bobby running into the guys at some restaurant, and he tells him that his dad's not gonna let him hang out with him anymore.
The problem with your father is he's ungifted. Our kind have always been persecuted by those who understand not. From the Salem trials of the 1600s to the locker room beatings and bathroom swirlies of today, 'tis all one.
So after Ward says that, Bobby starts to think that maybe Hank's just threatened by his powers. Ward continues to brainwash Bobby with all the magic stuff, and Bobby gets pulled right back in even more than he was before.
Silence! By the breath of Hecates, I summon the winds of the north to blow. Blow, I say!
Bobby, a word, please.
After the principal sees Bobby being weird at school, he calls his parents in for a parent-teacher conference. Come to find out, the principal thought this whole thing was about religion, which I guess maybe it could be considered a religious thing, but I don't know how any of this works.
Oh, powers of ancient Bool or Doom.
I can't have him praying in my office. The school board's very clear on that.
Hank tells Bobby he's stopping all of this right now, and Peggy tells Hank to stop this because, and I quote, "I know a girl repellent when I see it." And now we see Hank knocking on Ward's door. He answers, and Hank tells him he'd like to have a conversation with his son Ward. To Hank's surprise, Ward lets him know that that's him. But we're talking about Ward here, so he also follows it up with his other name is Austin Ostman Starklub Bartard. I swear to God you cannot make that up. Well, I mean, I guess you could, because this whole thing is fictional and it's all made up, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm also known as Mendelgar of the Northwoods, and in certain company, Austin Osman Starklabartard.
Anyway, Hank goes on to say, how old are you, 30, 40? And Ward goes, not even close, I am 5,000. This is when Hank starts to feel a bit guilty because he knows that Ward has probably been picked on his whole life, so he just tells him good luck, but stay away from his kid, or he'll kick his ass. Ward tries to scare Hank with his powers, but when he turns around to walk in the door's locked and he has to scream for his mom.
Ma!
Now at the Hills house, Hank is telling Bobby that he needs a new hobby, and Bobby replies with, "But Dad, the dark arts are nothing to be afraid of." In which Hank responds by telling Bobby he's afraid that Bobby's gonna get his ass kicked his whole life by acting like a nerd. He pretty much goes on to tell Bobby that Ward is just a nerd and he'll spend the rest of his life alone. Which, yeah, he probably will, but dang, Hank has zero chill here. He hands Bobby a carburetor to mess with and tells him to go to his room. Alright, I can see where Hank is coming from here, but he's being pretty extreme about it. I feel like he could have definitely got his point across without completely putting down the one thing Bobby is finally finding joy in, even if it's a bit, on the strange side. But let's see where this goes. That night, Bobby sneaks out of the house to go to one of the dark art meetings. So that just goes to tell you how into this he actually is, because that's completely out of character for Bobby to do. When he gets there, he tells Ward that his dad may be against this, but he's completely committed to the quote-unquote power circle.
You've got to believe I'm completely committed to our power circle.
Are you? I wonder. I'd think you'd be able to control your father as effectively as I control Mother.
Ward then goes on to tell the club that tonight they're going to be doing something big, but he needs someone to be the chalice holder. Now, I don't know what that is, but everyone kind of looks away until Bobby goes, "I'll do it." Ward goes on to tell everybody when and where they're going to be meeting, and Bobby asks what the chalice holder does. This is the response.
You hold the chalice during the incantation, then right after we light the candles, you drink Caninus Spiritus.
What's Caninus Spiritus?
Dog blood.
What?
Now, what really kind of grosses me out here is he says, of course we need someone to be the chalice holder, as if they've done this before. Gross. He goes on to tell Bobby that he's the chosen one, and he'll now be known as Robert the Coiffer, whatever coiffer means.
You will be known throughout the land as Robert the Dog Coiffer.
So obviously at this point, Bobby's starting to wonder, what did he get himself into? The next scene, we see John Redcorn taking any opportunity he can to push his band's flyer into people's faces when he runs into Bobby.
Hey, Bobby, you like to rock?
Huh? I'm just reading up on ancient ceremonies where people had to drink animal blood.
He then explains to Redcorn what's happening tonight with the dog blood, and even John Redcorn starts to freak out.
Dog? Ugh, that's just weird.
Bobby goes on to say that this is something he has to do. He doesn't fit in anywhere else, and if he can't drink something gross, he's got nothing left. Thankfully, Redcorn goes straight to Hank to tell him what's going on. Hank jumps into Redcorn's Jeep and they take off. Now we're at the ceremony, and if you were like me, you were probably wondering where were they getting this blood at? But apparently this dude's mom's boyfriend is a veterinarian, so that answers that. They start to position themselves like a pentagram, and we see Hank pounding on Ward's door.
We don't have your cat.
I'm looking for my son, Bobby. Is Ward there?
Well, his bicycle isn't here, so he must be gone. Want to come in? Oh, whoops.
What did she mean by whoops? Honestly, I can only think of one reason, that maybe she saw Redcorn and thought Hank was gay, but like, what did she have to go off of except for the fact that Redcorn was in the car? What am I missing here? But anyway, we see Ward pouring the blood into a cup while singing some creepy sounding song, and then we see Hank's getting closer when he finds a group of teenagers.
I'm looking for a bunch of warlocks.
Warlocks?
You know, nerds in capes and stuff.
Oh yeah, we kicked him out about an hour ago. The tall guy geeked hard. I cast a spell on his ass with my foot.
Honestly, I cast a spell on his ass with my foot has got to be one of my favorite quotes of this entire series. It's so funny. Now back to Bobby, it's time for him to drink the blood. He's super hesitant to do so, but everyone keeps pushing him. They're telling him he has to do it and he has to do it now. But before he takes a drink, he backs out and tells them he just can't do it. And everyone immediately turns on him. Ward tells Bobby that he has to destroy him now, and Bobby at first looks a little bit concerned, but then he realizes that all they can do is make silly noises and wave their hands around.
Destroy us, Bobby us, heal us. Now
Oh my God! My dad was right about you guys. Under these cool robes and hats, you're all just a bunch of losers.
They continue to try to scare Bobby, but all he can do is laugh at this point. He literally says, "You guys are so nerdy, even I want to give you a wedgie." And if Bobby is telling you he wants to give you a wedgie, you know you must be pretty bad. He throws his robe at him and walks off.
Anybody? Well, no reason to waste perfectly good Caninus Spiritus. Let's find an overpass.
Okay, a lot of these moments have really got me stumped here, but what does he mean, let's find an overpass? Why do they need an overpass? Are they just gonna throw the blood off of an overpass or what? Someone please explain this to me. Hank finally finds Bobby and asks if he's okay and if he drank any of the dog blood. In which Bobby responds super smoothly by saying,
Me? Drink dog blood? That's not my thing.
Hank responds by proudly saying, good for you, and Bobby tells him that between the two of them, those guys were pretty pathetic.
Can you believe Ward was wearing socks with his sandals?
Unbelievable.
I guess I still need to find exactly what my thing is.
Now, that's okay, son. You've still got time. I didn't really find football till high school. And I was in my 20s when I found propane.
What's wrong with wearing socks with sandals?
And that was it. That was The Witches of East Arlen. Honestly, this is probably one of my favorite episodes of King of the Hill. Okay, maybe not favorite, but definitely top 3. I really like the whole dark witchcraft vibe, and not to mention, this is easily one of the most quotable episodes. And another thing is, honestly, I know we're not supposed to like Ward, but he's probably my favorite, like, one-off side character of the entire series. I mean, come on, I feel like we all have known a Ward at some point in our lives. And I know this is probably wishful thinking, but I do kind of hope he's in the reboot. I mean, it'd be pretty interesting to see where this character went 10 years later or whatever it is. I'd like to think he's still doing this whole, like, witchcraft thing, but there's no way, right? Like, he'd probably be in, like, his 40s by now. There's no way. Another thing I really liked about this episode is the writers let Bobby decide not to drink the blood on his own. Instead of having Hank pull up again and then drag Bobby away and then that'd be the end of it. Because honestly, growing up, if my parents told me not to do something, it made me want to do it a lot more. Sometimes figuring things out on your own is the way to go. And in this episode, I think that's a great example of that. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for me. If you liked the video, please leave a like. And if you didn't like the video, please leave a like anyway, thank you. Please subscribe too, don't miss that next video. And until next time, peace.
I cast a spell on his ass with my foot.